Good morning. Welcome to Unity Spiritual Center, Pflugerville. Our topic today is the spiritual path is really simple. And then the byline is, at the same time, the spiritual path is also difficult to follow. And that's very, 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 very true. And it's interesting. Number one, I believe the issue is people don't really understand who they are and what the path is. And they're confused by what they've been told in our cultures. And then it takes time to change the structure. So I wanted to talk about that idea and what is the simple part of it, and then what's the part that we really need to work on. And what I remembered was very interesting. Years ago, I was in the Navy, and I was a third-class electronics technician assigned to the USS Northampton. And that doesn't mean anything to you, I know. But the Northampton went in and out of Norfolk, Virginia, and it was classified as CC-1, Communications Command Number 1. It was the ship that was administered and put together for the President of the United States to go to in a time of war. And it was a very secret ship. Most people didn't know about it. And it was equipped to communicate around the world with, secrecy, and also stop and think about it. It had to be able to communicate with anybody, anywhere. Okay? It was a very, very interesting thing. And my assignment was the communications. It was called Tropospheric Communication System. And just to give you an example, in the United States, anybody agree we've got radio stations broadcasting everywhere? Everybody has things, so there's energy being broadcast everywhere. It's known as a cloud of energy. Now, there's a tropospheric mantle around the world, and it's kind of like a big belt around it, way out in space. And the communications work that I was trained to do and to work on was a special communication vibrational radio kind of thing that was there to bounce off the tropospheric mantle and scatter. And it's a little bit complicated, but all over the world are communications that pick up the scatter that came off the tropospheric scatter system. So the idea here is, number one, they had to make sure that the president could communicate anywhere quickly. Bang! Okay, and number two, that it couldn't be interfered with. And here's all these radio waves everywhere, all over the world, bringing static. Anybody here been in their car when all of a sudden you go too far and you pick up another station? Or you get a squeal. Oh, that's called the scattered energy field. Okay? So there is, and we had the ability, and truthfully I wasn't supposed to, but I could pick up the phone and call anywhere in the United States. So I called home. And don't tell anybody. But the thing to understand is, that's the metaphor I've been looking for, and it just occurred now. Okay? And the spiritual path is really very simple. The first thing to understand is you are very special equipment. The equipment that we had aboard that ship was amazing. As the ship rocked, the big parabolic antenna rocked with the ship. It was automatic. It was on a gyroscope, so it was always pointed to a special place beyond the environment. Okay, and it was always knew where it was in the world. Okay, so who are you? You are a parabolic antenna radiating your energies into the world. Okay, Jesus said you are the light of the world, and the light is energy, right? So what we're talking about is you are radiating energy, putting out vibrations into the world. Okay? And what I've been looking at is it's really simple. It gets involved in the religious conversation. It gets involved in scientific conversation. It gets confusing because there's so many ways of describing it. And the Christian talks this way, and the Hindu talks this way, and the Buddhist talk this way. But if you really boil it all down, it's saying the same thing. It's saying you're a radiating energy of God. Okay? And the key to it is that there's a radiating energy everywhere present that's always there. That's the energy that we call God. Now, God is just a word. As a matter of fact, it comes from the old German, Gut, which meant the higher good. Okay? So there is no mystery to this, and it's been mystified. And let's just say the confusion is because we have choice. Now, one of the things we've all been imbued with is the ability to radiate energy and receive energy. Okay, now you want to get into quantum physics, I'm not going to go there, but quantum physics now works on that area, okay? And most of the major spiritual religions in the world talk about the kingdom of heaven is within. It's the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. All those words which imply there's an energy for good which covers the universe. Okay? And that energy for good is all of us combined because we are one. Okay? Now, the key to it is if you don't use something, you lose it. Anybody familiar with that? Matter of fact, lately, the truth is I don't want to go here. You don't want me to go here. But I have not been walking very much over the last couple of months because of issues, okay? So what's happening is the leg muscles aren't as strong as they usually are. Anybody familiar with that? So the old process is anything you don't use, you lose. And the only way to get it back is go back and do the same thing to get it back. And you get into physics that's called thermodynamics, okay? The body at rest tends to stay at rest. The body in motion tends to stay in motion. A body that's static has a tendency to deteriorate. It's called entropy, okay? So if we don't use the spiritual energy that we are, we lose it or it goes away. Now, it never leaves. It's all part of who we are. But the truth is we've been conditioned to not believe those things are true. And there's all kinds of scientific proof that God isn't real. You know, you can believe anything you want to, but that energy you're putting off, I don't believe in God, is eliminating God in your life. You understand? So you are a radiating energy through your thoughts, your words, and your actions. And so am I. And as those radiating energies go out, okay, they come back with the energies that we have created. Okay? And we've all been given choice. Anybody agree with that? In other words, if you really get down to it, the idea of sovereign, you are an individual person capable of radiating and running your life the way it needs to be run. Okay? And we have forgotten that and we don't realize who we are. So the idea is we haven't been using the God vibration within us to do what we need to do. So it's just like a machine. Anybody realize if you let a car sit for 10 years, what happens to the car? It don't run very well. And my English was a little bit off on that, but I wanted to emphasize that. Okay? So, as a spiritual being, we are capable of the original Garden of Eden experience. Because that's what we were born with. That's what we were given when we were created thousands of years ago. Now, you don't need to believe that. Doesn't matter. Because you're an energy, you're like a machine, and unless the machine does what the machine needs to do, it doesn't work the way it was designed to work. If that makes sense, okay? So a spiritual path is rekindling that which you really are within. Now, we have all kinds of ideas. Madeline and I have traveled the world literally looking for the answers. And it's amazing. And everybody has an idea. Everybody has, you know, I have sat in firesides and smoke rooms and steam rooms, and we have been in sweat lodges, and we have consulted with people that contact the dead. As a matter of fact, Madeline was trained in that. All kinds of things. And they're all wonderful fireworks. And they sound good, and they're wonderful. And we have seen smoke come from nowhere. We have been through all those kind of things. And they're part of the world. They are. But if you want to play with them, those are the energies that take you down, not up. Okay? So, words mean things. So the spiritual path is learning to control the mind and let the mind go back to its original state of being, which is a state of love. You know, most of Scripture talks about you're created in the image and after the likeness of God. Now, that doesn't mean physically, that means spiritually or energy-wise. And everything is energy. Larry and I talk about these things. But the idea behind it is everything in our world is energy at a vibrational rate. The vibrational rate changes, it mixes. There's energies that combine together and beat at a different frequency. And all those frequencies do things in our environment. It's all part of what we call God. They know that that chair is all the neurons, etc., are vibrating, and we look at it, it's solid, but it really isn't. It's a mass of molecules vibrating at a level. Okay? Wow. I just remembered the guy in Washington that could reach through chairs. Okay? So there are people that have learned to do those things. But the truth is, we are like an old rusty machine that has forgotten who we are. And my Bible says, the kingdom of heaven is within. It's the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. And then you get over into the Hindu and the Buddhist, and they're saying the same things. The chariot ride, what's his name? Anyway, all these things are stories, and they're stories to describe the truth of the spiritual path. So it's really simple. It's just learning to stop all the noise. Now, you remember that all the noise of radio stations? You understand that all the negativity that everybody's thinking is like all the radio stations creating static everywhere. Okay? And I want you to get that picture. We're all walking, talking, static problems. Or we can be walking, talking, static adders. So the question in life basically is, are you an adder or a subtractor? Are you taking away from or are you adding to? And people that are able to think and bring in the spirit from within and open it up to the love that is out there are adding to society. One of the keys that we're learning now is the self-development program has used the idea that subconscious mind can be changed, therefore my outcomes can be changed. So I renewed this, it's back to Paul saying you can be transformed by renewing of your mind. But the renewing of your mind isn't the material ego deciding that I want to be a $10 million millionaire. It's letting go and allowing the original code spirit that's already there to come in and take over. And in time, I've had the opportunity to talk to people. And there's a lot of research going on right now about the mind and how the mind works. And they're finding out that certain parts of the brain with people that are living well are different. In other words, certain parts of the brain grow and are bigger in people that are happy and wealthy and in good shape. And people that are poor and lacking and problems have shrinking part of the brain. So it's really retooling and retransforming the brain through being quiet, learning how to control, and going on a spiritual path. And the problem is it's not easy. Anybody familiar with trying to change something? Okay? Some of you have been through martial arts. What's the key in martial arts? We spend hours. And anything you want to learn in life, the way you do it is spaced repetition. Agree? So we have lost the ability. You go back through history and look at some of the great minds. Okay, what did they do? They did wonderful things. Okay, and you are just as powerful as that great mind. The only thing we haven't done is we haven't kept up and done the exercises and the work to return to who we really are, which is, you ready? Child of God. So what does child of God mean? Well, God is what? Everywhere present, all conditions, three parts. God is omnipresent, God is omniscient, and God is all presence. Okay? You are that in spirit. Okay? So the spiritual life is really simple. It's just clearing this out and getting rid of all the static from all the radio stations. Anybody agree that we don't get good advice all the time? And what's interesting to me is, if you want advice, you go to people that know what they're doing. And I've gotten some very bad advice from people that didn't know what they were doing. Okay, because I didn't make the decision to listen to somebody that knew what they were talking about. So who is the one individual that knows what they're talking about? It's the Christ within. It's the code that's already here for each one of us. And that takes time because it's reconditioning over and over and over again. Anybody agree this thing can be a monkey mind jumping all over the place? Okay? And if I asked you to take 1 minute and stop thinking for 1 minute, it's like impossible. But that's the quiet mind. And that's the quiet mind that can automatically, see, the key to it is, all we have to do is get rid of all the scattered energy and allow it to be still and quiet, and the energies from spirit come in and take over. Does that make sense? Okay? So yes, it takes time. And it takes a spaced repetition over and over again long enough to have the mind go clear. And problem is, it's almost impossible in reality. Yes? Because when we slow down, the mind keeps going. So it has to be wrong. See, if something doesn't work, it has to be wrong. Okay? But the history talks about the pearl of great choice, the mysteries of, and you go back to Hermes and you go back to all the ancient beliefs, they're all saying the same things. Anybody seen pictures of the pharaohs and the, what do they call them, in Egypt, sitting on their throne? And they were all in meditation. If you go back, so there's a key here over and over and again. And the key is, in the silence, things show up. It's interesting. I spend time thinking about this. Madeline gets tired of me saying things because I use her to bounce ideas off, and she looks at me sometimes like I'm crazy. But the truth is, it's simple. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it's simple, but it requires a commitment to who you are. I am a child of God. As a child of God, I have the right to live in a Garden of Eden existence. However, I need to return my consciousness to that Garden of Eden consciousness. Well, how do I do that? Well, the kingdom is within. Where? Within? Where is that? I don't know. In here somewhere. Okay, it doesn't matter. I'm told it's in the pineal gland here or in the heart here or wherever it is. Doesn't matter. The key to it is sit down, shut up, and be quiet. And when you first do it, it won't shut up. But it takes time. It's 5 minutes, 10 minutes tomorrow, maybe next month, next year, 10 years, it's half an hour. But it's building and reinvigorating the consciousness that is the Christ consciousness, okay? And it takes time. I'm reminded of silent rooms. They build silent rooms. Been a lot of study of that, very quiet lately. But that's when they take a room and isolate it completely from sound. And somebody can sit in there and come up with ideas. Anybody familiar with that? Okay? It's consciousness. I won't get involved in CIA stuff, but it's using that to increase consciousness and awareness through the silence around you. Anybody agree there's noise everywhere? Right now there's noise at the street. My voice is noise. The chairs you're sitting on are noise. There's always noise to distract us. Okay? So that noise is like the static of the radio station that kept out the president's communication to the world. Same idea as a metaphor, if we can use that. Okay? So there is a communication direct to spirit that takes time to connect. I really don't know what else to say. It's interesting. But I'm realizing now the kingdom of heaven is within is real. And right now, there's a conversation in Unity about what doctrine we're in. And we're not in a doctrine, we're just ideas. That's what we are. And people's, let's just say, the sayings of Jesus that we quote have been so misinterpreted over the years. So the simple is, you're just like him. You're a child of God. You have the capability of doing what he did. And he said that. These things I do, you shall do, or even greater things. So how come I can't? It's because I've lost it, and I'm working on returning it to my consciousness. Now, I understand, I don't want to go too woo-woo, but I understand when we pass on, when we die, we have an experience of that conversation. Okay? And then we come back to redo it again, which is another woo-woo issue. Yes, Valerie. So, yes.
In our spring prayer, we're reading the Tibetan book of Living and Dying. In the last chapter that we read, we're getting into meditation. We're getting into some of the different types of meditation. And one thing that I've been playing with a little bit, and I had never done before, was meditating with your eyes open instead of meditating with your eyes closed. And for me, that was really interesting because, like, sometimes I feel like when I'm meditating with my eyes closed, like sometimes, especially if I'm really tired, I'm like, well, am I kind of pseudo-napping, or am I really, am I really being open to spirit? And so I've been playing with that
Conversation.
And it's, I think it's just interesting how you know, like, I didn't ask to be taught this new way of meditating, but because, you know, like, what you read, who you hang out with, how you choose to spend your time.
Everybody influences you.
Really, yeah. And so when you're talking about the waves of energy, it's like, where is your focus? What are you focused on? You're focused on listening to all the noise of the media, or are you focused on developing your spiritual awareness?
Yes. Probably,
and finding ways to kind of improve on that.
See, most people are focused on survival, which is competition, and all those are negative things that take away from. By the way, you brought up an interesting thing. What you're talking about is in that conversation, they also will have Rudra administration, which is open eyes looking at a candle to keep yourself focused. So, and by the way, there are many ways to meditate, and many religions have different meditation. And thank you for bringing in the Buddhist ideas on Tuesday night. I'm getting new ideas. I like it too. So you see, if you don't like this, try this, and if you don't like this, try that. Okay. And we're right back to the conversation, the kingdom of heaven is within. Tommy.
Is it not so that everybody's on their spiritual path is at different stages?
Everybody's on different stages. Everybody's ready to hear things.
But
a lot of people aren't ready to hear these conversations.
Exactly.
Matter of fact, they get angry when they hear it.
There's some stuff that you take in, and the other stuff you just
and
bypass.
you just have to move along. Okay, now I view my job as to get that simple idea across. Okay, what frustrates me personally, which I have to be careful with, because it's a judgment. Everybody's familiar with judgment. But people don't get it. It's so simple. It's really just redoing, retransforming. And you got all kinds of brilliant people out there that don't have any idea. And then you get over into the scale of 1 to 1,000, and some of the most brilliant minds in the world didn't pass 500, which is spiritual understanding. Einstein was 499, the scale of 1 to 1,000. Anybody familiar with what I'm talking about? No? Terry is, yeah. We should probably bring that in.
Is that like spiral dynamics a bit about your spiritual intelligence, spiritual awareness?
Spiritual awareness, yes. And see, when we're trying to figure things out, but when you come over here and work from the heart, it's a different, and then you get into the spiritual area.
It's in consciousness.
Yeah. What was the name of the guy that we studied for a while?
Yeah.
I'll look it up. It's in my library. Okay, David.
Napoleon Hill said it in his book.
Huh?
Napoleon Hill was in his book.
Napoleon Hill.
Yeah. Think and Grow
David.
Rich.
Think and Grow Rich is one of the first books I was introduced to way back.
Yeah,
And
it talks about that scale.
it's a great book in a beginning conversation because it teaches you how to use spaced repetition. Page 19 in the book tells you to write out what you want and then repeat it over and over again every day, 20 times a day. And that's how people started changing. But again, we're back to the spiritual conversation is giving it over to God. Surrender.
David Hawkins.
Huh?
David Hawkins.
David Hawkins, yes.
I've been reading Myrtle Fillmore book, How to Heal Your Life,
She's great. Yes.
and I have read it over and over. I have it by my bed. I either read it before I go to bed or before I get up in the morning. And every time I read that book, I get higher spiritual understanding. I'm like, oh, I didn't get that before.
The words actually create that conversation.
It's like, I don't know how many times I read that book. And sometimes I just open the book and say, okay, God, what do you want me to know?
Yep.
And it's always new insight that I had read before, but I didn't. It's because I understood it here, but I need to understand it
in the
here.
heart.
And that's what I gathered last week. It's like, oh, I knew it mentally, intellectually, but now I'm beginning to understand it with my heart. And so we have to marry the intellect with the heart. That's what I think.
Words, the way words are put together sometimes create changes at a subconscious level. That's known as Ericksonian language, and that's another.
Yeah,
I have to be
anyway.
so much stuff. But
Yeah, so if you read the same book over and over, like I'm reading Myrtle Fillmore's book because I went to Myrtle Fillmore because she was the one that started Unity.
she is Unity's beginning.
She was at the very
Okay.
beginning. And so I said, okay, I need to go back to her because she's the one, she's the proof. She's the one that knows.
Yeah. And you bring up healing, which is interesting. This organization has experienced divine healing, yes?
Yes.
I'm an example of it. I won't give you all the details, but I'm here because of your prayers. So I'm convinced of that. Okay. And Randy's not here today, but Randy and Jane. And what? Terry? They're trained healers. There's a couple more. B? Madeline and I have been through it. Okay, trained, and all most of it is getting out of your head and into your heart and using symbols to change the thoughts in your mind. Okay, and it works. And by the way, we need to start that conversation again. Randy and I have been talking, and he's going to talk to Jane. We'll see what happens. Are you willing to start processing it? Okay. Anything else? I'm finished. My main point is you can't just sit there and do nothing because you slowly deteriorate. The idea is get active, and that means total action. It also means quiet. Learn to get the mind quiet and Again, it takes time. It's not something that happens overnight. It's hard to believe because it's not intuitive to the natural person out there who's trained in scientific knowledge, okay? It's a new game. It's a new ball that has been around for thousands of years, okay? And what's interesting now is science is starting now, through quantum physics and some of the other ideas, to investigate what we've been talking about for years, okay? So thank you. I appreciate you. I'm done. Please, if anybody has questions, I'm available by phone whenever. Unfortunately, I have a tendency to be up early in the morning, whatever. So have fun.